Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the regular meeting of Fernie City Council held on July 14th, 2026. Kisukukit. We acknowledge that the city of Fernie is located within Kukinamakis, the unceded territory of Yakutat Nucleat First Nation. We recognize that we live and work within their vast lands. The Kanahunik are from Yakutat Nucleat and are members of the Ktunaxa-speaking peoples of British Columbia, Idaho, and Montana. We have a very full agenda tonight, and I don't know that we'll get to council reports at the end of this agenda, but I did want to say on behalf of all of council, I wanted to thank the organizers and all the participants in Canada Day this year. It was another amazing success. And I know I speak for a lot of council. We thoroughly enjoyed both participating and just being part of that event. And somehow, the dunk tank water was even colder than last year. With that, I'll call the meeting to order at 6:31 p.m. We do have one late item, so I'll ask for a mover and a seconder for the following recommendation: that the agenda of the July 14th, 2026 regular council meeting be amended to add a request to extend the youth councillor term verbal report from the corporate officer at the beginning of the business section, and that the agenda be adopted as amended. Moved by Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor Audie Kelly. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. I'll ask for a mover and a seconder for the following recommendation: that the minutes of the May 11th, 2026 Official Community Plan Task Force Committee meeting be adopted. Moved by Councillor Nixon, seconded by Councillor Hamilton. Any discussion? All those in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you. And I will also ask for a mover and a seconder for the following recommendation: that the minutes of the June 23rd, 2026 regular council meeting be adopted. Moved by Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor Audie Kelly. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. And I will open the floor to public participation, and just remind folks watching at home and in the audience here that effective August 17th, 2026, the public participation period at council meetings will be temporarily suspended and will resume following the inaugural meeting of the new council. That meeting is November 3rd. This temporary measure has been implemented in accordance with council procedure bylaw section 3.7.3 sub K. With that, I'll invite public in attendance or participating electronically who wish to comment on items listed on the meeting agenda in accordance with section 3.7.3 of the procedure bylaw to address council, except speakers must not address council regarding a matter for which a public hearing must be held or has been held pursuant to the Local Government Act prior to council's consideration of the matter or adoption of the bylaw. Speakers must not address council regarding a permit for which public notice must be given or has been given pursuant to the Local Government Act prior to council's consideration of issuance of the permit. A speaker may only address the council for a maximum of 3 minutes, and speakers are asked to state their full name and community of residence. Does anyone in the gallery wish to speak? Seeing none, I'll check if there's anyone online. Thank you. Moving right along, we will move to item 8.1, development variance permit number DVPA 640, report from our Director of Planning and Development, and Councillor Nixon.
To recuse myself as this is my house.
Thank you, Councillor Nixon. Over to you, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Council. This report and presentation are provided to Council today to consider DVP number 640 for 791 Fifth Avenue. I'll provide a brief presentation, a recommendation, and happy to answer any questions. So the purpose of this application is to permit the long-standing location of an accessory structure that is in the process of being significantly repaired through a building permit. A building permit was issued for this project. However, the scope of work expanded to the point where staff determined that the legal non-conforming status of that structure was no longer valid, as the Local Government Act provides us. So a variance is required to continue work on the project in order to site the building in the location that it's been in for a long time. The proposed variances are to reduce the side yard setback from 1.5 meters to 0.08 meters, and the rear yard setback from 1.5 meters to 0.23 meters. Proposed site plan showing the structure towards the top of the screen in hatch with the setbacks identified there. Fairly accurate, as there was a recent survey on this property. Just a Google Street View image here showing the subject structure that is undergoing repair. If you were to visit the site today, you would see that the building is absent. It has been deconstructed as a new roof package has been included. And so they're waiting for this variance to be approved to continue work and reassemble the building. This image is just included to show the general footprints of buildings in the neighborhood. From staff's review, we're the opinion of, as there's no proposed change to the massing of the structure, the placement is similar to other accessory structures along the lane with very little setbacks from historical placement. No apparent negative impacts or on existing viewscapes or neighborhood character. No known issues or complaints from neighbors that we support the requested variance. So options for council consideration with a recommendation to approve the variance as proposed. We did conduct notice in accordance with bylaw requirements, received one letter in support of the application with no concerns noted.
Thank you, Director. Questions, comments from council? I just had the one. Prior to the deconstruction, if you will, of the structure, it was subject to a encroachment agreement, and now it no longer is. Like, it's actually marginally better in terms of its placement overall.
That's correct. Thanks for the question. Any encroachment on city property will be removed as a result of this. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you. And just as well, kind of for further clarification, the only reason this is coming before us is in the process of doing the renovation, the structure required more significant renovations than were initially anticipated. And so it just changed the parameters of what was legally non-conforming.
That's correct. The Local Government Act, provides for up to 75% of a structure to be repaired. We went through a fair bit of back and forth and review of what the scope of work had evolved to be, and the building inspector completed a site visit with myself and did a fairly detailed estimation of the proportion of the building that was being repaired, and determined that it could no longer fit within that 75% limit. So a variance is the proper way to proceed.
Councillor Shoesmith.
Thanks, Mayor Milliken. I'm prepared to move the recommendation. I think it's pretty straightforward.
Thank you. I would agree. I'll ask our, Councillor Audie Kelly.
I'll second.
I'll ask our corporate officer to read the recommendation, if you don't mind.
The staff recommendation is that council issue development variance permit application number DVPA 604 at 791 Fifth Avenue for the following variances. 1, varying the zoning bylaw number 1750 as follows. Little 1, vary section 4.2.1.4, minimum side yard setbacks from 1.5 meters to 0.08 meters, and little 2, vary section 4.2.1.4, minimum rear yard setbacks from 1.5 meters to 0.23 meters.
So that was moved by Councillor Shoesmith and seconded by Councillor Audie Kelly. Any further discussion? All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Director. If someone can get our councillor out of quarantine, that would be greatly appreciated. With that, we'll move to item 10.1. Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Bylaw number 2552, 2026. A report from our corporate officer. Welcome, Ms. McElwee.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Today, staff are seeking Council's consideration of first, second and third readings of the proposed Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy, or FOIPA, bylaw number 2552, 2026. While the bylaw itself is administrative in nature, staff also want to provide Council with the broader context surrounding this work. Over the last several years, the City has made significant investment in how we manage information, from records management to cybersecurity and technology governance. Protecting personal information is another important component of that broader work. Today's bylaw represents the first foundational step in strengthening the City's privacy governance. Why this work matters to Council. Residents entrust the City with personal information every day. So from utility accounts and tax records to building permits, recreation registration, employment records, bylaw complaints and emergency services, protecting that information is a fundamental responsibility of local government. This report is not just creating is not about creating new privacy laws. The Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act itself already governs how municipalities collect, use, disclose, and protect personal information. Rather, the purpose of today's bylaw is to modernise the City's administrative framework. Our existing bylaw was adopted in 1994, over 30 years ago. Since then, legislation, technology, and the City's organisational structure have evolved considerably. This update ensures our administrative framework reflects today's legislative environment and current organisational responsibilities. Information governance. This bylaw should not be viewed in isolation. It is one component of a broader organisational strategy. Council has already supported a number of these important initiatives. In 2021, we completed our cybersecurity assessment. Earlier this year, Council received the Records and Information Management Assessment and subsequently adopted the Records Information Management Bylaw while approving funding for the next phase of implementation. Most recently, Council approved our renewed Managed IT Services Agreement, which includes another cybersecurity assessment later this year. Privacy naturally complements these initiatives. Cybersecurity protects our systems, records management governs our information, and privacy protects the personal information entrusted to the City. Together, they form the foundation of effective information governance. Now, current state analysis, Yes. As part of developing our privacy management program, staff undertook an internal privacy assessment analysis. One of the most encouraging findings was that staff genuinely care about protecting personal information. We found many examples of good privacy practices already occurring across the organisation. The opportunity is that those practices have evolved over the 30 years. They are not always documented, they are not always consistent. They often depend on individual knowledge and experience rather than a corporate standard at current. As the City continues to adopt new technologies and digital services, it becomes increasingly important to establish consistent corporate practices. It is also important to emphasize that this bylaw is administrative in nature. It does not introduce new obligations for our community or residents. It does not create new privacy rules. It simply updates the city's administrative framework so it reflects current legislation and organizational responsibilities. Considering adoption of this bylaw will effectively repeal the 1994 bylaw and provide the city with a modernized privacy bylaw moving forward. One of the small operational changes is the formal adoption of the province's prescribed fee schedule. Staff have already been following the provincial schedule in practice. However, the bylaw now formally adopts that schedule and includes the prescribed fee of $10 as an application fee, which is established by provincial regulation and provides only minimal cost recovery. Why would the city adopt provincial fee schedule? There's three main reasons why we would do that. The first is consistency. The fee schedule itself aligns with the FOIPA legislation and other BC public bodies and is currently the best practice across the province. Another reason is fairness. Adopting this fee schedule will provide a consistent and transparent approach for all applicants. And lastly, efficiency. Automatically reflects the future provincial fee amendments moving forward. So what's next? Adoption of this bylaw is not the end of this work. It is only the beginning. Staff will now continue developing a comprehensive privacy management program. This will include corporate policy, procedures, staff training, privacy impact assessments, breach response procedures, and ongoing monitoring. Over the coming 8 to 12 weeks, these initiatives will be implemented in phases and coordinated alongside our records management, our cybersecurity, and information governance initiatives. A comprehensive report will be brought back to Council outlining the proposed privacy program policy, along with a strategic roadmap that details the implementation phases, key milestones, and the overall project timeline. Key benefits. Ultimately, this work is about building trust with our community, with our staff and our council. For residents will expect municipalities to manage their personal information responsibly. Staff deserve clear guidance and training so they can confidently meet their legislative obligations. And council benefits from improved governance, stronger accountability, and a modern framework that supports legislative compliance while also reducing organizational risk. The recommendation to Council today is that Council give first, second, and third readings of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Bylaw number 2552, 2026. And in closing, today's report is about modernising a bylaw that has remained largely unchanged for many decades. While administrative in scope, it establishes the legislative foundation for a broader privacy management program that will complement the city's work in records and information management, cybersecurity, and information governance. This phased approach reflects good governance and positions the city to continue strengthening the way it protects information, the way it supports legislative compliance and maintains public trust. Thank you very much, Council. I'll take any questions at this time.
Thank you, Corporate Officer. Councillor Ramadus?
Thanks, Your Worship. Supportive of this. This is really good, bringing our privacy framework to modern standards. That's all great. The one thing that I had, Officer, is you spoke about residents' privacy information will be better cared for because of this new framework. Can you just give us a concrete example of what that would look like? I'm not thinking, we're just giving away social insurance numbers of people everywhere and things like that, do we?
Sorry, just may I ask a clarifying question? So what this will look like for the resident or in terms of the infrastructure in the city?
So sorry, Your Worship, my
No,
question
please,
is,
yeah.
My question is, how would this look different for residents?
Oh.
And how do we actually manage the information that we have of our citizens and taxpayers and residents? How will it be different from where we were before?
Oh, thank you for your question,
Yeah.
Councillor. I think the biggest thing we need to understand is that there are some good practices internally with the city and staff that are happening. And we've gone now from more of a reactionary model where we were quite smaller back 30 years ago, I guess. And we've kind of evolved as a business, as an organization. Or the new technology being implemented means that more breaches could happen, I guess. And as the city has grown, the infrastructure hasn't grown with it. So we're still doing a lot of that work manually through the corporate officer currently, which can be quite a big portfolio to cover for one person. Providing a framework or specifically a privacy management program gives our people the tools to do this job in their day-to-day operations. So we're now creating staff training and manuals for our staff to go out and, you know, have a sustained structure to follow should breaches happen, should new technology come on board, and we'll need to figure out the impact of that assessment in an assessment. So we now have the tools to do what we were informally doing in the past, if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
So just, if I could summarize, for the citizen on the street, as it were, it won't look any different.
No.
It's more of an internal process to ensure it doesn't look different.
Yeah, and under the legislation, we should be documenting all of this
Yeah.
stuff under the program, and having the tools to do that currently isn't in place. We don't have those tools right now. It's all through knowledge and experience of the corporate officer. But creating those tools for our team, for our staff, for our departments, it then becomes an organizational culture as opposed to one person centralizing all of that information and having to monitor each department, because each department is operating and using personal information on a day-to-day basis. And most of our staff know what to do. It's just inconsistent in terms of how they're doing it, I guess.
Thank you. Councillor Adi Kelly?
Thanks, Your Worship. Just to clarify a little bit, there is a provincial fee schedule that we follow when we do have an FOI request, correct? So that's not becoming different. And there is also provincial legislation about freedom of information that we do follow. So just so people are aware, we have which our corporate officer mentioned, an overall records management process going on now. So this is also a piece of that. I'm sort of curious because you just mentioned how manual it is for us. You know, what the cost in staff time and dollars is for when we have a request, and obviously it might be dependent on the extent of the request, and how does staff feel confident that this is going to help that process? It's going to be a quicker turnaround if we do get requests. It's going to be less expensive in terms of staff time and that kind of thing as we update our records, digitize things, et cetera. Cybersecurity has been strengthened over the last several years. Could you maybe kind of comment on that a little?
Thank you, Councillor, for the question. As it stands, I think what I said earlier is true. Like, a lot of this information is coming through legislative services, the deputy corporate officer and the corporate officer. So the amount of time it takes us to do one FOIPA request is anywhere between, and I can rely on my DCO here to correct me, is anywhere between 3 to 5 hours per request, because there's a lot of legislation you kind of have to follow, tick boxes as you're going through an application. And then there's also the cost of getting people to pull files, because we aren't digitized at the city currently. So a lot of those files are in the basement and are physical pieces of paper. So pulling all of that information together and then sitting with the DCO and myself and going through each and every request and ensuring that we have those records available and providing those records once they are available, basically. Yeah, so anywhere between 3 to 5 hours roughly per request.
Further?
So as I'm understanding it, the legislation, there's no charge for the first 3 hours, as
No.
I understand it. So modernizing, I just wanting to make the point for the community that modernizing our record keeping overall is a huge win for the community
Correct.
and the organization, because it will improve efficiency, save money, which is taxpayer dollars, and also improve security as well.
Mhm.
Thank you.
It also aligns with the other projects that we're doing under information governance in terms of records management and cybersecurity. Sorry, and the technology that's being developed and implemented at the city. So it creates that alignment with all of those portfolios, with privacy being the last initiative to be added to that.
Mr. Boranowski?
Thank you. Through to council. Just one clarifying note. The old bylaw you'll see does have a fee schedule attached to it. And so that does go away and we move to just the modern provincial standard with this. So there are some changes in fees, but it's mostly modernizing things. We don't really copy floppy disks anymore. I don't know that we have floppy disk drives around. So there's just modernization, but the goal really is to continue to improve our ability to safeguard people's records, manage how we collect and use information and protect it, and then provide better transparency, both in terms of how we get to those records when we have to do our work every day and when people request them and we have to get them out the door.
Thank you. Councillor Shoesmith?
It's funny, I had 4 questions and they were sort of all answered in sequence. Was concerned about the workflows, and it seems to me that this fee schedule is pretty low. But I suppose we want to make information retrieval affordable. And I was definitely curious as to whether we even have microfiche or any of these other things. But yeah, no, I think that everything I had's been answered quite well.
Thank you. Councillor Hamilton?
Thank you. Just looking at the kind of the nuts and bolts of the bylaw, it designates the corporate officer as the head of the organization. I'm curious if this opens us up to any risk of conflict with other bylaws or job descriptions or anything like that from a HR or other perspective.
I would like to defer to our HR manager. And is there anything there you can comment on in terms of conflict with any employment contracts, contracts in general?
It's specific to provincial legislation. The definition of the head of the organization is specific to the privacy legislation. And your corporate officer at the City of Fernie, although it's been previously called the clerk/administrator, treasurer/collector, and confidential recording secretary, they were all previously the heads. And so it is just for the purpose of the act, they own this area of practice and then can delegate to the deputy corporate officer as the coordinator or other employees. Yeah, so it provides them just the specific authorities, but it should not put them in conflict with employment contracts or expectations.
Councillor Amnes, did you have another question? Councillor Nixon?
Thank you, Worship. I was just thinking about the question that Councillor Ramadas had in regards to what will look different. And I think nothing should look different unless there's a security breach.
Mhm.
And then once the security breach happens, if it happens, then it will be, everybody will know in our community. And actually the rest of the province will know as well. So I'm all in favor of modernizing everything that we have here, and it looks great. All this legislation is makes sense. Now, just curious, I know that Whistler had a ransomware scheme that took them down digitally a few years ago, probably for maybe 4 or 5 months, so they couldn't use any of their computers. What would, have we had any breaches close to that? Does anybody know in our
I could
organization?
defer to the director.
Thank you, if I may, Your Worship, through to Councillor Nixon. We've had no breaches. We do report quarterly in the operating metrics there. You would be hearing about it. We have a process in place with our cybersecurity insurer, but we have a robust cybersecurity program. This council will hear about that program at an upcoming meeting once we've wrapped up our cybersecurity assessment this summer, and you'll get more there. But there has been no breaches.
Thank you. Councillor Artie Kelly.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just to point out to folks that cybersecurity breach might not be the only type of breach. For example, I work for the province in my day job, and if we've had breaches where inadvertently a piece of mail's gone to the wrong person, right? It was intended for someone else. And there is a robust provincial policy that is followed when that happens. So what I'm sort of understanding is those are the types of things that staff is looking at working on updating, as well as things like cybersecurity, is just those extra steps and those extra things that say, here's what happens, here's what we do, etc. Have I understood correctly?
Yes, Councillor, that's correct.
Thank you. With that, I will read the recommendation that the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy by Law number 2552, 2026 be given first, second, and third readings. Mover? Councillor Shoesmith, seconded by Councillor Artie Kelly. Any further discussion? All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Corporate
Thank you.
Officer. Our late item, 11.1, a request to extend our youth councillor's appointment, a verbal report from our Deputy Corporate Officer.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council. I am speaking on behalf of the Corporate Officer this evening. Staff received a request from our current youth councillor, Ms. Pari Parmar, to extend her appointment as youth councillor beyond the end of her term. Under the city's youth councillor program policy, the youth councillor's term concludes the last day of the school year, which this year was June 25th. Since that time, Ms. Parmar has been balancing end-of-year school commitments, and as a result, we have only recently been able to coordinate a date for her scholarship presentation, which is scheduled for our July 21st council meeting. Ms. Parmar has expressed an interest in remaining a youth councillor role until August 25th and has asked council to consider extending her appointment so she can continue participating in council meetings through to August 25th. While the policy does contemplate extensions by the council resolution, it specifically speaks to the extensions for an additional year. It does not expressly address a short administrative extension such as this. In the interest of transparency and good governance, staff felt it was appropriate to bring this request before council for consideration rather than making assumptions about council's intent. This request is not intended to alter the program or create a precedent for future appointments. Rather, it's simply intended to allow Ms. Parmar to complete her service and continue contributing to council discussions for a few additional meetings before her appointment concludes. Should council be supportive of this request, the recommendation before you would be that council extend Pari Parmar's appointment as youth councillor until August 25th, 2026. The corporate officer and I are happy to answer any questions council may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, first, I have to express my delight that Youth Councillor Parmar has actually expressed an interest in continuing. I'm very grateful for that. And I very much appreciate your input and your enthusiasm. So thank you for that. Do I have a mover for the recommendation? Councillor Artie Kelly, and seconded by Councillor Shoesmith. And just to repeat, the recommendation is that council extend Pari Parmar's appointment as youth councillor until August 25th, 2026. Any further discussion? All those in favor? That is unanimous. Now get out of the crowd and come back to your station. Thank you. Item 11.2, BC Hydro statutory right-of-way for the fire hall. Report from project engineer Line. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll just pull it up. A very short presentation today to check a necessary box on the list for the new fire hall. To provide power, BC Hydro requires a pad-mounted transformer. An example of such is shown on the slide, although I'm not sure if the one we need is that big, but that's the one they show on the BC Hydro example page as part of the new service. This transformer will be installed on the property, which requires a statutory right-of-way for BC Hydro and also TELUS. And while there's no TELUS infrastructure plan for the hall right now, due to the oft intertwined nature of the utilities, they are always included on the SRWs. So you cannot take TELUS out. You can't just do BC Hydro. I am here tonight to request approval to begin the process of providing BC Hydro with a statutory right-of-way for the fire hall lot, as BC Hydro will not be able to energize the fire hall service until the right-of-way has been executed and registered. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions from council? Councillor Shoesmith.
I was going to comment, but.
Yeah, please.
Oh, thanks, Mayor Milligan. Seems straightforward enough. I mean, we can not have power at our fire hall, so I think we should just get this done.
Yeah. With that, I will ask our corporate officer to read the recommendation. I do.
Your Worship and Council, the staff recommendation is that council authorize public notice, or let me check, am I on the right? Yes. Public notice in accordance with Section 26 of the Community Charter for the proposed disposition of an interest in land being the grant of a statutory rights of way to BC Hydro and Power Authority and TELUS Communications Inc. for underground utility purposes to be located on Lot 1, District Lot 4588, Kootenay District Plan 8097, except Part In Plan NEP 21661. And that council authorize the mayor and corporate officer to execute all documentation to execute the disposition of the statutory rights of way following the requisite public notice.
Thank you. Moore? Councillor Nixon, moved, seconded by Councillor Shoesmith. Any further discussion? All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Engineer Line. We now move on to Economic Development Service Agreement, Fernie Chamber of Commerce. Report once again from our Director of Planning and Development. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. All right, this report and presentation are to outline a proposed economic development service agreement with the Fernie Chamber of Commerce. A little bit of background, going back to 2025 on this topic, the Fernie Chamber made a presentation to council about the concept of a chamber-led economic development service. Subsequently, staff worked with the chamber on an application to the REDIP, the Rural Economic Development an infrastructure program, which was unsuccessful, as were most of the applications from our region. Following that, It was discussed during the 2026 budget process to include an allocation of $60,000 for this service. And so building on that, staff have worked with the Chamber of Commerce to develop the draft agreement, which is attached to the report, as well as several schedules. The agreement itself is proposed as a 3-year agreement with the service being offered described in Schedule A, and the terms of the agreement body itself to be relatively standard for what the city sees for service offerings and partner agreements. On Schedule A, not intended to be able to read this table, just in terms of the structure of the schedule. This is a first draft of the proposed work plan. We've structured it into the now, next, later format that council is somewhat familiar with. It identifies a topic, a deliverable, who is leading the proposed item, as well as an estimated start and completion date. So I'm just going to talk through the first set of what's included in the now category, or the priorities for what would mainly be initiated immediately if the agreement is approved, and completed mostly before the end of 2026, with some elements going into 2027. So the first would be to set some strategic goals and objectives for the city's economic development function. It's an important step to ensure we know what we're aiming for with this service. It's not proposed to be necessarily a long process, but would involve some engagement or discussions with council and the business community and the broader community. Second, some support for the operations of the Downtown Business Working Group. The group has been initiated. It is having productive conversations about supports for a thriving downtown business community. Third, supports for municipal efforts from an economic development perspective. So this could be helping our team with policy development, bringing that economic and business support lens, or helping to support grant applications. We know with provincial and federal funding right now, economic drivers are a main point of interest. So bringing that perspective and expertise to the development of those grant applications can only be a good thing. Items 4, 5, and 6. So business startup supports right now. Businesses in the region can get support through programs like Community Futures. This would be a focus on helping navigate and understand municipal rules and regulations as they pertain to folks interested in starting and investing in businesses in Fernie, as well as providing feedback to our departments to understand potential adjustments we could make to further support business. Build relationships with First Nations economic development. There's ongoing work in general on this topic with First Nations, but with exploring areas of mutual economic interest is something worth looking at here. And then in municipal lands inventory, we know what land we own, but we haven't done a proper assessment and compilation of those lands, and in terms of things like highest and best use and how to categorize and consider bringing things to market for disposition if that's the route council wants to go at the time.
Sorry, Mr. Johnston. Councilor Ramdass?
Thanks, Your Worship. We have spoken about this quite a few times in this term, Director, about the lands inventory. Like, what exactly is the bottleneck here for us to get to an end state there? Like, what is required? I remember last time we had this conversation, it was, I think the CAO told us, it was not that we do not know what our lands are, it's just the lack of knowledge of where the tie-ins are and where the utility connections are and things like those. Are we still in that same state, or have we progressed from that spot?
If I may, through to council, we have a good idea of our infrastructure, the connections, tie-ins, the lands that we own, their current zoning, all the data we have in terms of geospatial data or map data, parcels, that's really solid. What we don't have is defined future vision for what we want to do with them and what the best higher use is and what policy they should be advancing in terms of how are we using these as strategic pieces to move some specific vision to get forward, if I may. Is that fair, Director?
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Further?
Thanks, Your Worship. Yeah, that was a good insight, CAO. Your Worship, I think where this is landing is, I think we've gotten all these nuts and bolts and, work plans and everything sorted out, which is a great improvement. Really commend the staff and Chamber of Commerce to have come through to this level of detail. But I think what is probably missing is probably from us, from the council, to kind of define what the vision is. And I'm hoping that work can be done sooner than later. I understand that is one of your work tasks on the top, but I think this is one of those things where in the last 4 years, it's been that, we've been talking about economic development, but nobody has provided the vision.
Mhm.
And it's probably incumbent on the council to provide that vision so that you guys can go away and define what that means. Because this land inventory question keeps coming up in the community and in the business circles over and over again, right? And yeah, we have the data, we can provide all those information, but what we don't know is what are we going to do? Like 902, what's our vision? We don't know. We haven't expressed, we have not communicated in clear terms what we want as a council.
Yeah.
So I think there's some work to be done here at this table, I feel, on this one.
Thank you. And as I look at the work plan, it is sequential, so that would essentially be the first step, was jointly creating that vision.
That's correct. A number of the items have immediate as the start. So, presumably we could get a few things going at once, but that is the first item on the work plan.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Adi Kelly?
Also, just to point out further to what Councillor Ramadas has been saying, it's also been flagged at our OCP table. A lands inventory, a vision for what those lands are, etc. So it's been flagged on several levels.
Thank you.
Thank you. An advisory committee. So not included necessarily in the recommendations, but bringing it up as it was included back in the Chamber's 2025 presentation. And it is something we're looking for some direction from council on tonight, is whether or not you'd like to see that component added. It could be a committee of council that we would then go to with things like draft documents and more detailed engagement, rather than always coming to the complete body of council for those items. So yeah, with that, the recommendation is to approve the proposed economic development service agreement as presented. Happy to answer any more of council's questions.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Councillor Adi Kelly?
I do have a couple, if you don't mind, Your Worship. In the now section, Director, we talk about grant optimization, but could we drill down to what that really is? Like, what do we mean when we say grant optimization?
It's a great question. Thank you. I think the intention there is recognizing the scoping of the grant opportunities in front of the city, just getting extra horsepower to help us frame the economic benefits of our projects where we feel like we could use that extra support developing those grant applications. I have seen in some of the details on grant applications, things like the amount of material that's been produced in Canada that is being used to complete a project. And so just getting extra, it just requires more information to submit those applications, sorry. And so this just gives us a bit extra help as needed.
And that's been a bit of a pivot, I understood from the report, in terms of the requirements many of the grants are asking for in terms of Canadian content, economic output of the potential project, that sort of thing. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's coming through fairly loud and clear that this is a priority, the economic output of a project.
Thank you.
The ability to create jobs specifically. Yeah.
Further?
Yes, if I may, Your Worship. Okay, so our staff is still going to be writing the grants, but we're going to ask the chamber for some help and input, if we're talking in layman's terms here.
That's correct. If we would like support developing the grants, then we have access through the work plan to this service to provide that support.
Okay, and a similar question for supporting process improvements to improve service delivery. Similar kind of thing, just using a bit of a sounding board approach. Is that the idea?
That's correct. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Hamilton?
Thank you. In the next section, it talks about indicators development, and I'm just curious if you could kind of flesh out what that looks like from your perspective. Are we talking like building a list of leading indicators, lagging indicators, KPIs, that sort of thing, or am I misunderstanding that?
Thanks for the question. That's the right idea. I don't presume to know what those should be at this point, but I think a fulsome investigation of what best practice looks like and what feels right for the city of Fernie in terms of what you'd like to see grow or change as a result of the service. So some folks might look at the number of new business licenses issued, or commercial floor area, or commercial tax revenue, things like that. But to be explored and detailed.
Councillor Nixon?
Thank you, Worship. Just curious, as we all are aware here, there's an election this fall. How much flexibility, sort of if these chairs are all filled with different people, with, the next 3 years, are we going to have a lot of flexibility or no, or how's that going to work?
Thanks for the question. There is a note at the top of the work plan for some staff level ability to adjust, and then an annual review by council. So the new council would see this after a year of service delivery, but I would also expect to introduce the new council to the service as a concept much sooner than that, as well as the work plan. So yeah, I would say a fair bit of flexibility, subject to the service provider agreeing to provide the service as we scope it.
Councillor Shoesmith?
Thanks, Mayor Millen. Am I correct in for a 2-year term? Yes? Three? It was three?
Three, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I misread that then. Okay. And, it says chamber led, but just in reading this, it seems like the city will still ultimately be in the driver's seat here. Yes? Seems that way. I think this is a really fulsome plan. And I think with a 3-year term, that's a fairly cheap bet. I think that this may not be the perfect vehicle for economic development, but it's better than what we're doing currently. So my 2 cents is this seems to make a fair bit of sense.
Sorry, any comments, Mr. Johnson, on the?
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. Just that it's a service being provided to the municipality as we scope it. So it is led by our vision and goals and objectives in agreement with the service provider to provide that. So I think the language around lead is areas where the service provider is leading an initiative,
Right.
not leading like the vision and yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Hamilton?
Thank you. In your presentation, and in the report, you talk about an advisory committee, and it wasn't really kind of scoped out what the vision for that might look like. And I'm wondering if you might be able to paint outside the lines for us on that.
Thanks for the opportunity. So in a very formal way, it could be a select committee of council that has terms of reference that outlines, the mission to pursue economic development and operate this service agreement as that arm of council with a makeup of probably chamber representatives and other folks as council likes to see or would like to see. So if council wanted to see that, I would come back with a report of some more scoping and terms of reference and things like that to establish that committee. As a less formal group, it could be something like the Downtown Business Working Group, which is not a committee of the council, but still operates effectively just without that formal oversight through a community charter committee of council.
Thank you. Councillor Audrey Kelly?
Couple of comments, if I may, Your Worship. Further to that, from what we just heard with your answers to Councillor Shoesmith, we're going to drive the vision. The chamber's going to provide a service to us. So I'm not 100% sure that we would also need a committee, because it seems like that would then take a lot of chamber time and a lot of staff time, but I might be misunderstanding. And just wanted to comment about annual review. I think that annual review of the program as a whole is good, but I think it would be beneficial to maybe have quarterly touch points, like in the quarterly reports to council. As EconDev is, you know, this is where the program's sitting. Director Jansen gives us a lot of great information, and in my way of thinking, this is something that could possibly be included there as well, just so that there's a tighter grasp being held by staff and council, and better for the chamber if we all feel that it's going in the right direction.
Thanks for that. Yeah, absolutely. We could add something to the regular quarterly reporting relative to the service.
Thank you. Councillor Ramirez.
Thanks, Your Worship, and great point, Councillor. I was also thinking, include that in your quarterly building report, for example, for non-market value. Mayor Milligan, I just wanted to comment on the idea of this subcommittee itself. While there are some merits to having a subcommittee, it formalizes this entire program with select councillors and a person from chamber. I just feel like this particular aspect is so important that it needs to come to the council more often, because what I have also seen sometimes is if we let a subcommittee handle this, there's just going to be fewer touch points, and there won't be opportunity for council members who are not part of the subcommittee to actually get into the weeds here. At least in the first initial year or two, I feel like it should come to the council, and maybe once the program matures, you can think of a formal subcommittee later. That would be my 2 cents on this.
Director Johnson, how would you like to handle that? Because you, as you indicated, it's not part of the recommendation, but do you want to take that away and bring back a recommendation, and do you require a resolution to do that?
Thank you. I think if council would like to have staff develop a terms of reference for a committee to operate an economic development service or oversee, I would appreciate a guiding resolution. But if council just wants to make the note that you'd not like to lose the topic and perhaps reconsider in a year or something, I think that's something we can just flag within the service as an internal note.
Well, yeah, that's a bit of a tricky one. I like the idea of it being attached to our quarterly reporting so that it will be in front of council regularly. But to Councillor Ramirez's point, is that tight enough, so to speak, in terms of tied to council's objectives? I don't know. And I appreciate I'm thinking aloud here, so.
Sorry, I'm not quite clear on the
Well,
clarification or question.
to your point, if you want to bring it back in a year or so, that has potential because it will be in front of council quarterly. So council will be aware of how it's developing, and therefore can then potentially pursue a resolution at a later juncture, or and that's maybe, as I say, I'm thinking about, that's maybe the better way to see how it's developing and decide whether we want to, how we want to act and be informed of that. I'm not sure what the best outcome is.
For what it's worth, that feels like a reasonable approach. And if it feels like at that time, council doesn't feel comfortable with the amount of information and oversight that they have, and feels that a committee would be helpful to dive into topics more specifically, then could get the mandate at that point.
Okay. Councillor Kelly?
Sort of further to what I think your thought process and mine with the quarterly suggestion was, there will be a new council who will also have a new strategic plan. So it might be premature to suggest forming a committee. And also it gives an opportunity for the program to get off the ground and both proponents to get a feel for how it's going to work, how it's going to look, managing it, what the time commitment is, etc.
That feels natural to me. Let it sort of get its feet and because we'll hear about it quarterly, or council as a continuing body, will hear about it quarterly, that we'll have a sense of how it's developing. Councillor Shoesmith?
Thanks, Mayor Milligan. I broadly agree with that. That I think makes a lot of sense. I had to check to see where I got the 2 years from, and maybe this doesn't reflect things, but it's on the page 2 of 14 of the what's it called? Development Service Agreement. It says from 2026 to 2028, so that should reflect the correct term.
It's 26,
That's fair.
27.
I guess
28.
depends where you
Yeah.
pick the date in the year. That's where I got it from. I wasn't
No,
a
that's
crazy
okay.
person. I'm looking at this and seeing a bunch of things that would be desirable for the city
Mhm.
that we don't have the in-house horsepower to do. And I think that this is a fairly affordable way of achieving that. I think that the 3-year term is a cheap bet. And I think the way this is taking shape, this won't, run away on us. This will be under the purview of the incoming council. So I think we should go with this.
Thank you. Before I call the question, I am going to ask you one more question, Director, and I'm tempted to frame it so the folks at home understand, but it really is, I didn't know what an upset budget is. Can you tell me what an upset budget is from your report?
Thanks for the question. Upset would mean up to an amount where it's not necessarily a given that you're going to get to that amount. And so
Okay.
a service provider will usually invoice based on actual cost with an upset limit. So you know what your maximum cost is. It's probably not the right term here because we are expecting that the service provider is going to use the full amount of that
Yeah.
budget. But that is.
Yeah, no, thank you, because I hadn't heard that phrasing before, so I appreciate that insight. With that, I will read the recommendation that council approve the proposed economic development service agreement and that the mayor and municipal officers sign the agreement on behalf of the city of Fernie. Moved by Councillor Audia Kelly, seconded by Councillor Hamilton. Any further discussion? All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
Item 11.4, consideration of adoption of the city's sponsorship and advertising policy. Report from our Director of Parks, Recreation and Facilities. Good evening, Mr. Logan.
Good evening. Just a few minutes to pull up the presentation. There we go. Sorry about that. Good evening, council. Tonight, I'm excited to bring forward the refined advertising and sponsorship policy for adoption or your consideration of adoption. This policy provides a consistent framework for managing advertising and sponsorship within city facilities, programs, and services. This slide provides a quick background of how we got to today's consideration for adoption. Some of the core content of the policy was originally proposed by staff when presenting the municipal facilities park user regulation and fees bylaw. It was requested from council to pull out some of that content and allow that bylaw to focus more on the regulation and fees, which makes up the policy bones presented today. We engaged multiple municipalities to understand how others were managing advertising and sponsorships. And we also had been recording feedback from Fernie user groups, as well as staff who had voiced some concerns about equal opportunities and the need for a process to engage with the city on advertising and sponsorship. In 2024, a policy development framework was created by corporate admin that ensured a robust process that we followed with this policy to provide this policy presented today. Some of those steps included identifying a need, defining the scope and deliverables, research and analysis, an internal review of the draft, a legal review of the draft, and then finalization following a committee of the whole presentation, and then tonight's final adoption. This slide summarizes what the policy does and doesn't do. I believe the policy provides the right amount of detail to address historical frustrations of staff and user groups while providing clarity for existing and future agreements or arrangements. However, staff, we do acknowledge that some current informal arrangements may require a phased transition to bring them in line with this new policy framework. This policy advances several city priorities, and operationally it provides staff with the tools to manage advertising and sponsorship fairly and transparently. For user groups and businesses, it provides an opportunity to document historical arrangements. It outlines acceptable practices through agreements, and it clarifies the city's service limitations as well as where fees for service may be applied. During my final review and prep for tonight, I did catch one small mistake that I would need to change in the policy. It's located in the roles and responsibilities section on page 109 related to the CAO. It currently says the chief administrative officer can approve sponsorship and advertising agreements greater than 100,000. It should actually read to say that the CAO can approve sponsorship and advertising agreements less than $1,000 or $100,000. Because lower down, it does explicitly say that council is required to approve all agreements over $100,000. Sorry for that mistake. So that completes my short presentation. And I'll read the recommendation because it has changed with that amendment. So the recommendation is that council approve the advertising and sponsorship policy as amended to correct the chief administrative officer's delegated approval authority in the roles and responsibilities section to read that the CAO may approve sponsorship and advertising agreements of less than $100,000, and further that council directs staff to implement the policy as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Logan. Councillor Artie Kelly.
Thanks, Your Worship. Director, can you maybe give me some on-the-ground examples? Like, for example, the advertising in the arena on the dasher boards. My understanding is it's traditionally been the Ghost Riders that have pursued that advertising, that kind of thing. Can you tell me what this policy changes about that?
Sure. Thanks for the question through the chair. So you are correct that historically all the advertisement on the boards has been managed by the Ghost Riders. They go out and they canvass for businesses to provide donations, and then in return they get their business displayed on the boards. Through the adoption of the user fee regulation bylaw in 2023, we included one section in that bylaw that created a lever for staff to recover some of the costs associated with putting up that advertisement and removing that advertisement requested by the ghostwriters. So this policy sort of enables us to have an arrangement with the ghostwriters in this example, where we would clearly define what the city does for free and what we don't do. And it might include things like defining sort of times throughout the year where we'll accept changes. So we can work with that operationally with existing user groups, or slow times through the holidays, for example, pre and post season. Historically, it's been sort of an ad hoc request here and there, and that's difficult to manage when you have limited staff and a full booking schedule in the arena. So just putting things like that down on paper so both parties can be clear with what to expect. Another quick example that's relevant is the dolphin banner in the pool. Council a few years back approved that, and I was unable to find sort of documented direction with how long it would stay up, or who was responsible to maintain it or clean it or whatever. So again, this would be another opportunity to just clarify that with the Dolphins and put some sort of historical handshake deals, I guess, on paper. So potentially someone who replaces me would know what the arrangement was.
Further?
If I may, so this would still allow user groups that have sort of relied on the revenue from those types of things to still do that, but it's going to allow us to have a clear, and then also benefit the organization, because they'll be very clear framework of how that's going to work, when, where, how, and allow us to recover any costs that would impact taxpayers.
Yes, thanks. Through the chair. That's exactly right. We're not looking to take the revenue from the advertisement in the arena. The intent is just basically to recover the costs of putting it up and taking it down, or installing ICE logos, for example, without the citizen taxpayer compensating that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Shoesmith.
Thank you, Mayor Milligan. So as I understand this, there's not going to be any wild change to what any current user group is doing. There's just going to be a set of, go through, formalize things and do some cost recovery on, I would expect it would be, pretty reasonable cost recovery sort of things. There's no existing setup or habit that anybody's doing that this will radically change or eliminate right now. Am I correct in that?
Through the chair, I would say yes, unless there's something I'm not aware of, which it might be out there. So, but yeah, we're not looking to turn anyone's world upside down, and that's why we mentioned in the report that we do realize there's existing agreements in place. They're not on paper, but we'd look to formalize those on paper. So it's documented.
All right, thank you.
Councillor Nixon.
Thank you, Your Worship. I like that this is a policy, not a bylaw, as it gives us more flexibility. That's good. But I was looking through the draft sponsorship and policy here. And I see in one section under exceptions that we are prohibiting companies whose main business is derived from the sale of tobacco. And I'm just curious, since tobacco is legal like cannabis, alcohol, or vaping, is this just historical? Is there like a Health Canada thing, or why are we, I'm not, kind of a funny question, but I'm just curious because like, the vaping and the cannabis sales and stuff like that, I mean, maybe we should be having that part of our policy as well. I'm just kind of at a loss here. Is it best practice?
Thank you. Through the chair. What we were seeing when we looked at other policies that existed was that they explicitly mentioned tobacco. we can definitely make that change to include cannabis and other things. Yeah, but that's what was presented at the committee of the whole, and we didn't get any feedback regarding that specifically. Otherwise, I would have made that change.
Are you requesting that change, Councillor Nixon?
Well, it was just an inconsistency that I had noted. No, I guess I wouldn't.
Thank you. Councillor Hamilton and then Councillor Ramirez.
Just as a added bit to that, things like cannabis and vaping do actually have other marketing and advertising laws already in place that perhaps supersede our bylaw. So I don't know as a cannabis retailer or a producer can market through ringside boards or similar. So it might be superfluous to add such an entity.
Councillor Ramirez?
I was about to say the same thing, Your
Okay.
Worship. And feels like it's above my pay grade here. I think it's some kind of a regulation that has been grandfathered into our policy here, and we'll just stick to that, I feel.
Yeah, I appreciate Councillor Nixon raising it because I appreciate the perception of inconsistency, but I think Councillor Hamilton and Councillor Ramirez are exactly right. Certainly, talking to cannabis retailers, they're incredibly restricted into what they can do and how they can advertise. So I suspect, as Councillor Hamilton indicated, probably not worth it to make that effort here. Mr. Logan?
If I may, it's worth mentioning that also in the arena, for example, like we do actively allow Fernie Brewing Company to display their logo and their advertisement in there. And we've also had a local cannabis shop support a local event at some point. Can't remember the event, but it has happened in the past. We haven't had Marlboro asked to, sponsor anything like that.
Probably just as well. Mr. Bornowski.
Some of us will remember the Des Maurier Festival of Lights in Vancouver. It was fantastic. There's federal prohibition around using directly or even indirectly tobacco product brand elements for promotional material of people, entities, events, activities, or permanent facilities. So it is also federally prohibited.
Thank you for that clarification. That's important. Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you. I too appreciate just pointing out the inconsistency, and perhaps it's something that we flag just to kind of keep an eye on, as it is a policy, not a bylaw, that if other regulations change, that this does perhaps get reviewed, and whether it comes back before council or staff just make the administrative change to that to ensure we're in alignment with provincial and federal marketing and advertising laws.
Councillor Ronnie Kelly.
Just as a further point to Councillor Hamilton's, CAO, correct me if I'm wrong, we wouldn't be able to have a policy or a bylaw that didn't follow federal or provincial acts and regulations, right? Like those would come in a ranked hierarchy and we can strengthen, but we can't undermine. Is that correct?
Your corporate officer may have a better word for it. I think it is we cannot invalidate laws from other orders of government, and the British Columbia government enables us to even exist through legislation. So I don't believe we can invalidate provincial law with very few exceptions.
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to have something contrary to provincial law. I feel like I remember we were allowed to have stronger regulations about certain things if we wanted to. Then, in addition to the province, we could also make it stronger.
Councillor Shoesmith.
Thanks, Mayor Milligan. This is really interesting, but I don't think it's of much import to anybody outside tobacco lobbyists and policy nerds like us. So I think we should carry on.
Does anyone need the recommendation read again? Okay, Councillor Nixon, one more question.
Thanks for the robust conversation there. I mean, there probably is tobacco laws saying that they can't advertise in the community center anyways, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
we can't even see what they look like inside the grocery store if you want to buy a pack of Marlboros, if
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
what they are. The other question I had was just in regards to not in good standing. And I was just curious, what does that mean? Is it like you didn't pay your taxes, or like how does that work? Like, we don't like you, so you can't advertise here? So, curious.
Thank you for the question through the chair. Yeah, this would be checking a business, for example, whether or not they have a relative or up-to-date business license to operate in Fernie. Or yes, if their taxes weren't paid or something.
Thank you. You're welcome. Sorry, do we need the recommendation read again? Everybody understands it's policy as amended? Mover? Councillor Shoesmith, seconded by Councillor Ramadas. Any further discussion? Sorry, Mr. Logan, I just had one question, just for clarity. The Highway 3 kiosk is where? Is that the one in front of the arena?
That's the one on the side of the highway in front of the arena, yes.
Okay, thank
And
you.
there is a fee for that, and it's in the user fee regulation bylaw.
Okay, thanks. All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Logan. Item 14, correspondence, a request to raise the flag and promote the Fernie's Terry Fox Community Run through city communication channels, encourage the community participation and support awareness of the event. A letter from our local organizers from the Terry Fox Foundation. Comments, questions, thoughts, Councillor Ramadas?
It's an iconic event. We should support this, Your Worship. I'm in full support of their ask here.
100% agree. When we were in Newfoundland, we visited Mile Zero and the Terry Fox Monument. It's a pretty powerful experience. So I would encourage people to do that if they get the opportunity. Can you read the recommendation? Do you mind, Corporate Officer? Oh, Mr. Bornowski.
Thank you. Mr. Logan may have more comments. We do presently have a flag already raised during this period of time, which would be the Fernie Pride flag. And so a resolution would likely need to note that we would have an additional flag raising ceremony, and we would have to pull down one of the other flags at City Hall to fly this one, which I don't think we need council to determine right now, but there is the Pride flag up already. by resolution.
Understood. Yeah, thank you.
Sir, if I could further.
Yeah, please.
It is a busy time for flags that month. Pride flag's been approved to be up from September 14th to September 21st. And then the Legion also had a request to run the flag from August 24th to September 13th. The Terry Fox Run is requesting the flags to be raised on the 14th to the 20th of September. So typically this would come to council through a flag request in our newly adopted flag policy that would come 4 weeks prior to the event, which it would be within that window. And then staff would bring sort of recommendations on how to handle all those requests at the same time in that report.
Okay, so do you need a resolution this evening, or are we comfortable leaving it in your hands and you will bring the report 4 weeks prior with the recommendation?
We would ask them to submit a flag request, and then it
Okay.
would come to council, a regular meeting of council, or a council meeting, sorry. And then we can discuss what's going to happen there, and council can approve the recommendation of staff.
Okay.
What would be helpful for probably the group and the request of the letter is just formalizing that council supports the event. So if there are any opportunities for me to waive fees in the user fee regulation bylaw, like for example, the kiosk, I would do that.
Okay. Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you. I was going to actually ask the exact same question of how does this align with our flag policy, and how do we handle the multiple requests that are overlapping at this time? But I think that's been answered, and I would certainly be in full support of making a motion that communicates that the council is in favor of this or supportive of this event, and that we will do what we can to promote it through our communication channels. And when we get the flag request, we will deal with that at an appropriate time.
Thank you. Do you want a minute or two, corporate officer, to, thank you. We'll take a brief moment while we develop that resolution. Thank you, Councillor. Ready to go, Ms. Rhodes? Welcome back, and I'll ask our corporate officer to read the resolution.
Your Worship and Council, the proposed recommendation for Council's consideration is that Council confirm its support for the Terry Fox community event to provide communication and awareness through city channels, and that Council directs staff to work with the Terry Fox Foundation organisers and bring back a recommendation to Council for the flag request.
Moved by Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor Nixon. Any further discussion? All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. And thank you for your work on that. Well, we've made better time than I anticipated. So we'll go into council reports, and I'm going to bring it on our youth counselor who's rejoining us. And first, congratulations on graduating. It was, and congratulations on graduating with such high honors. So well done.
Thank you, Mayor Milliken. I don't have much to say. It's been a busy couple of weeks, but I just wanted to say that it was really amazing to see what all the different graduates of Fernie are doing next year, and I can't wait to see what everyone does. All of the graduating classes from the Fernie Academy, KDS, and Fernie Secondary School, I'm sure we'll all do amazing things, and I'm excited for that. That's kind of all I have to say.
Thank you so much, and thanks again for extending your term with us. Councillor Ramirez.
Thanks, Your Worship. Nothing much to report other than finding you at the Annex Park more than once. The Canada Day celebration, Your Worship, I'm sure many of my colleagues will also share the experience. It was phenomenal, very well done. Like you just said, dunk tank was colder than I thought. And I just forgot a couple of tricks there to actually stay there for entire half hour to raise more money. I just didn't understand that one basic principle. I got dunked and I went out and missed an opportunity to raise some money for a good cause. That and I was also able to attend Ride and Roast that was 3 weeks ago. Was really well attended. What I really commend about some of these events, Your Worship, they've all sort of organically grown over the years. I remember going to that same event last year. It was a much smaller crowd. Now it's gotten even bigger, busier, more people attending. It's just shows the power of volunteerism in our community. I'm pleased to see that one particular event get off the ground. I think I have attended a couple more events, just don't recall what they are. It's been a busy summer.
Fair enough. Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you. Yeah. I don't know what you guys are complaining about, the cold water in the dunk tank. Quite pleasant on a hot day. Wow, it was warm enough. I was up there for a while, yeah. Obviously, I attended Canada Day. Want to thank the volunteers and organizers. As I've told many people, that's actually the first Canada Day in Fernie that I've attended in probably 6 years, maybe 7 years, because it's typically when I leave to go back to visit family back in Saskatchewan. But just with the dates of everything, I was able to stay this year, and it's an absolutely fantastic event. And the changes that have occurred, everybody should be very proud of what they've accomplished. I too was also at the Ride and Roast, and another great community event. But yeah, other than that, as I just mentioned, I left shortly after Canada Day and have been away on holidays until Monday. So I haven't been able to attend much, but I'm looking forward to tomorrow night's BBB.
Thank you. Councillor Shoesmith.
Thank you, Mayor Milligan. Yeah, a couple things before I talk about the wonderful dunk tank that we had. I keep getting stuck in traffic because all of our works crews are busy doing upgrades on our systems, down at the bridge over there and a couple other spots. It's nice to see all that infrastructure work actually happening. I mean, a lot of people think nothing's happening, but it is. It really is. And I've become a bit of a connoisseur of the local parks with my children on my bike, and I gotta say they're in nice shape. I certainly appreciate the nice new bark mulch and stuff that went down. It's pretty nice. Kids love it. On to the dunk tank. Counselor Hamilton, for the record, just kind of stood up, so he wasn't really in there all that deep. It was a really great time working with all the different charities. It's been really nice. They've all come together. We actually had our final debrief last night about Canada Day, and there was some hiccups and whatnot. But all in all, everybody involved had a good time. Felt it was a great success, and I'd like to thank the members of staff and council and His Worship that participated in the dunk tank I was running. You guys were troopers. It was really great. We soaked the CAO. We inundated the accountant, and His Worship, he didn't even float. He was straight down. It was good. It was really good. I had a lot of fun doing that. And, more importantly, a lot of kids had a lot of fun. There was, by the end of the day, there was just a giant mob of kids that had kind of taken the thing over. And that was really wonderful. So I'd just like to thank everybody on staff, council, and in the community that helped put that together. And, we have a really strong civic society that can pull those things off.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Nixon.
You had me at dunk tank. Yep, 5 dunks, very cold, way colder than last year, even without the ice. Everybody had a great day. It was fantastic, another fantastic Canada Day. There's another thing that I was concerned about on the main street. I know that we need to remind people that it's a 30-kilometer-an-hour zone in this downtown area. There seem to be some young kids in very large trucks with very big diesel exhausts screaming down the 2nd Avenue and Victoria Avenue. And I wish they would stop, because it is not only dangerous, but it's also super loud, and it's not inviting to our tourists. So today I called the RCMP and I made them aware of this going on. I'm sure I'm not the only one that's done this, but it needs to stop, and those kids need to stop doing that. So a little somber note, but safety is number one. And I look forward to seeing the 30-kilometer-an-hour zone and the little bump outs. It's going to be fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Audie Kelly.
A couple of things. It's been a while since we did reports, and I can't remember. I just wanted to say the Chamber Golf Tournament, golfed with councillors Hamilton and McIsaac and Dillip from the Bayleaf, and it was super fun. We actually could use a couple of my shots, and I even won a prize, just saying. We had a council cafe. Canada Day, as Councillor McIsaac, I'll throw that in about the coats of paint. Just wanted to say 1,034 cupcakes were handed out for one. But kudos to the organizing committee, Rotary Lions, 3,300 other service clubs. We were there bright and early to set up, and it was a great day. I volunteered at the Ride and Roast Festival for the Single Track 3. There were over 500 riders, most were from out of town. Significant amount of money is going to the trails, and the festival raised funds for Coal Creek Heritage Society. And just for anyone that I got stopped yesterday in the grocery store. A longtime local said, yeah, I went out to the suspension bridge and it was awesome. And, just was really enthusiastic about it and the historical signage along the route. I also helped out at the gravel grind. Councillor Nixon didn't mention that he also was a big help there. Again, more than 553 riders, 83% from out of town. And both of those 2 races injected a significant amount of money into the local economy. The people I talked to were having an excellent time, loved Fernie, loved the trails, loved the town, and were saying how much they wanted to come back. So I think those are important things to note. Went to the first Wednesday social and really looking forward to attending more of those. It's always great fun, and it's a nice opportunity to sit on the deck at the Legion too, which is always great. I'm looking forward to the BBB tomorrow as well. I had it on my radar to talk about the speed limit, no pun intended. Where's Councillor McIsaac? And also shout out to our dolphin, Layla, who went to swimming nationals, which I think is just amazing. Our local youth, congrats to our youth counselor and all the other local youth. We have amazing youth in our town that do incredible things. For like a town our size, I think our youth just punch way above their weight. So yeah, and really looking forward to the rest of summer. Thanks, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor. Well, I think Canada Day's been pretty well covered, and it certainly covered at the start of the meeting, but exceptional job, the organizing committee and all those involved. Not only around City Hall, but on Second Avenue this year. It felt like there was twice as many people on Second Avenue as there was last year. I was really, really impressed with the turnout. So well done to all. Councillor Audrey Kelly attended the first Wednesday social. I was able to talk to the mayor of Invermere, Al Miller, who sits next to me at the regional district, because the band, who was from Invermere, said the crowd was way more fun than the crowd in Invermere. So I know they were playing to the crowd, but it was Al Miller was not impressed with with that comment. And I was also able to attend the Elk River Alliance AGM in the time we've been away, and they do great work on behalf of the Elk River and their summer camps and all the research they do and all the mitigations they do regionally. And I salute that organization and really enjoyed their AGM. And 2 new folks stepped up to be on their board. So they have a full complement of really committed board members. So that was a great event as well. So thank you, everybody. And with that, I will ask our corporate officer to read the resolution to close, please.
Your Worship and Council, the resolution to close is that the meeting be closed to the public pursuant to Section 90, Sub 1, Sub A and Sub C of the Community Charter, as the subject matter being considered at this time relates to personal information about identifiable individuals being considered for positions appointed by the municipality and employee relations.
A mover, Councillor Shoesmith, seconded by Councillor Nixon. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is unanimous.